So today we are talking about documenting processes on the Process Tools page. So there are two ways in TouchStone that you can get to the templates where you document a process. The first way is through a job description. So if I go to a job description like this one, and I've linked processes to it, like I showed you last week. So using this toolbar item or this toolbar item, you've added processes to the job description. You can then select that process from the job description, and it takes you to the Process Tools page. So this is where the templates exist for you to start to document the process with. Another way you can get to this screen is by going through the 4 key functions over here. So every process that's in TouchStone, whether it's linked to a job description or not, is by default here on the 4 key functions list. So you can go to one of the 4 key functions where the process lives that you want to start to document, and then you just click it, and it takes you to the same screen. So either through a job description or directly from the 4 key functions list. When you're on the Process Tools page, and I call it that because this is that header, and we refer to it as the Process Tools for that process. The tools are all of these templates that are here underneath. From this screen, by looking at this trail here, I call it a breadcrumb trail, I can see where the process is on the 4 key functions. So it's in doing the business, it's in client service, and the title is Customer Complaints. This trail, this breadcrumb trail, will take you back and forth from the 4 key functions list to the Process Tools page. So if I select this client service, it's in doing the business, I'm going to be taken here to doing the business, and I see client service. So that trail takes you back to the 4 key functions. I can also see all of the job descriptions that this process has been linked to on this screen as well. So if I click Link to Job Description, I'm going to see that this particular process is on the Customer Service position, and it's also on the Manager of Admin Finance position. From this screen, I can add or remove this process from job descriptions as well. So to add it, you just click this button. It's asking you strategic or tactical section of the job description, and then you just hit link. And now you'll see this process is in orange, which lets me know, or this position's orange, which lets me know that this process is on that job description. To remove it, you just click the orange, and now it's gone. So from this screen, you can always tell where the process is on the 4 functions by looking here, and what job descriptions it's been linked to by looking here. What we're looking at right now is called the details of the process. So this box right here, this is called the process details. So what it shows you is the title, which is right here. It shows you the objective, which is right under the title. You have the ability to mark the process as complete just by filling in this little checkbox right here. So what that does is it turns the process title black. So wherever you see it throughout TouchStone, if it's been completed, meaning the documentation is done, then it will be the color black. And you can also put a process in the public folder right here by selecting this box. So this is the details of the process, the title, the objective, the ability to turn it black or put it in the public folder. To edit the title of a process, it's just click to edit. So if I just click this, it's going to open, and then I can edit or change the title. When you're finished, make sure you save it. Right underneath the title is this objective field. It is also click to edit. So I just click it, it opens, and then I save it. The objective of the process here under the title, this one says resolve and learn from each customer complaint through efficient follow-up and distribution of information. That is meant to be a sentence or a phrase which describes the purpose of the process. So I'd really encourage people to fill out these objectives. The reason is it helps you when you're about to document the process. It helps you to decide what's going to be in it. You can kind of think about does it contain. Another way to say that is, where does it start and where does it finish? So this is telling me that from beginning to end, this is the resolution and the dissemination of all that information to the people, the resolution of the complaint, and then the dissemination of that information to everyone who needs it. So that's the beginning and that's the end. So again, that'll help you to know what you're going to put in this process. Another reason for doing the objectives is if somebody else is looking at this, then they'd be able to tell what's in it. So without having to go and read this information here, just by a glance through a job description or on the 4 functions, they'd be able to see what the purpose of the process is, what's in it. So let's go over here to the left. And today we're going to discuss work plans and checklists, which are the first 2 templates. Next week, we're going to talk about the rest of the templates. So I'm just going to go through and highlight what these templates are, and then we'll get specifically into how to build a work plan and how to build checklists. The work plan template, which is right here at the top, is a step-by-step set of tasks. So it's instructions on how this work is done. So how to handle a customer complaint. A checklist is a list of items that need to be checked off or verified that they've been completed. So that's the checklist template. Most people know what a checklist is. The scripting template, which is right underneath the checklist here, scripts, and here are 2 scripts, is a tool to document a conversation. So it's a template used to lay out how something is said, so a verbal interaction, or frequently asked questions. The uploaded files tool, which is right here under scripts, is for taking documents, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or PDF documents, and uploading them to the process. So it's like Google Forms, it's like Google Drive or Dropbox. It's that kind of concept. You take the whole document and you can upload that to the process. The Documents tool, which is right here under Uploaded Files, and there's not one here, but what the Documents tool does is it allows you to write text, first of all, like a letter or paragraphs of information. It's called the Document tool because it's like a blank Word document. So with the Document tool, you can build a table if you want. You can insert images. It acts just like a blank Word document. You can cut and paste information into it. The Custom Form tool, which is right here under the Document tool, and there are 2 custom forms here. I see them right under this header. This is like Google Forms. It allows you to build fillable forms. This is an example of an employee test that was built for the customer complaint process. So the idea with this is that somebody studies this process, they learn it, they memorize it, and then they take this test. Under the custom form, there's a policy note tool. So this allows you to document really important rules, safety things, compliance, something that's of the utmost of importance about the process. So you can document this in this formal policy template, and then you can even have employees require them to complete it on their dashboard. And then the last 2 tools here are for video and audio. So this is an actual training video, and it's been uploaded to the process. And then audio is the same idea, except for it's an MP3 file, so it's just a flat audio file. So all of these templates are available to use to document the process with. Now, you don't always use every template. So they're meant to give you choices on what the best format for your process is. But rarely would one process use every single template. I don't see that very often. So what you want to do is think about the process and decide what template would be appropriate for it. Probably 99% of the time, you're always going to have a work plan. So the work plan is this step-by-step set of tasks. it's the instructions, it's the detail. So every process in the end, I believe, should generally have a work plan, because that's what you use for training, that's what you use for reference. It contains the most information. It goes in this step-by-step task-driven format, which is great for people to learn with. It's easy to learn that way. It's not just a big Word document full of text and paragraphs of information. It's got this structure to it. So I would suggest you always start with a work plan. You want to use the checklist tool if you need some verification that the process has been finished. If you need to have information about that the tasks were completed, either for management purposes, for client service purposes. So anytime you need a management tool to help you see that work has been done, then a checklist is a great tool for that. If you don't need that, then don't use the checklist tool. If the process has a verbal interaction in it, so there's frequently asked questions or a conversation, a phone call, a sales process where someone's saying something, anything like that, management processes. If there's a verbal interaction, the scripting tool is amazing for that. It structures it in this back and forth way, easy for people to learn with this template. If the process does not have a verbal interaction in it, then you don't use this template. If there's a file or a form or a document that you need, PDF manual, a spreadsheet, then uploaded files, you would use that tool. So think about the value of that tool and whether it's useful for the particular process you're attempting to document. So let's talk about how to build a work plan and how to use it, and then I'll get into some tips and techniques for what makes a good work plan. So to build a work plan, you just click the title. You just hit right here where it says Work Plans. And every tool works the same way. If I want to build a checklist, I click the title. If I want to build a script, I click the title. Then I'm prompted for the title of the work plan and the objective. So the title of the work plan is just the name of that work plan. If the process is only going to have one work plan, so you don't have multiple work plans, then generally the name of the one and only work plan can be the same as the title of the process. So if there was only going to be one work plan here, I would just call this customer complaints. There's no reason to struggle for another work plan title. Same would be true of the objective. If there's only one work plan, then the objective of that one work plan could be the same as the title of the process. If there's going to be multiple work plans, so there's multiple parts to the process, there's multiple workflows, multiple things that happen, then title those work plans appropriately. Define or come up with a name for what that piece of that process, of that work plan is, and then create a work plan for it. So once I've added in the title, I just hit Create Work Plan. If you get this error message, it means that you've got another work plan with that same name. And if I clicked here, I could see where that work plan is. This is just a duplicate warning, so I'm just going to put a number here so it differentiates it. And then I just hit Create Work Plan. So now you can see over to the left here, I've got a third work plan. So when you begin a process, default to starting with a work plan, unless there's some big reason not to, and you can decide that on your own, but generally speaking, think about the work plan first. Decide if it's going to be one work plan, so it's just this process is just a series of tasks from beginning to end, nothing in between. If that's the case, make the work plan the title of the process, hit Create, and then you've got your work plan to start to build. If the work plan is going to have if the process is going to have multiple work plans, then name those work plans before you would even start the process. So think about the different parts of the process and name those work plans. So let's look at a few examples of that just so people get an idea of what I'm talking about when I say multiple work plans. So let's go to running the business here. And then let's look at this process, accounts payable. This is a pretty straightforward process for this example. They're not all that straightforward. So this is the accounts payable process. So I've named this accounts payable. And now over to the left here, I have all of these work plans, which are a part of accounts payable. So there are different workflows or different things that happen regarding accounts payable. So we pay with checks, we have to do bank deposits, we have to do special invoices, we have to deposit. So everything related to accounts payable, all the parts of that are here inside of this process called accounts payable. So this is an example of multiple work plans. Let's go back here and see if I can find another one. So anytime you have multiple workflows, that lets you know that there should be multiple work plans. Let's look at this onboarding process. So when we're doing new employee onboarding, it's not just one thing from beginning to end. There are multiple parts to it. So there are multiple work plans. There's new employee preparation. That's a series of tasks from beginning to end. So it ends here, and then there's a whole other part of onboarding, which is another work plan, first day training, and this is a whole other set of tasks. If we put this all in one work plan and called it new employee onboarding, you could see where it would be hundreds of tasks long. And it starts and stops over and over again. So it's way too confusing and hard to learn that way if you just do it one series of tasks in one work plan. So break it apart when it makes sense to. So someone's asking about this onboarding process. This is a cool process. Particularly this work plan is kind of cool. This is in the library inside of, I didn't just make this up. You can download this right away. You just go to running the business and then library right here, general process library, and it's here in the general process library, new employee onboarding. There's a lot of other great HR type process examples here in this library, so you can go and download it yourself. I'm just going to go back here to doing the business, and then back here to this customer complaint process. So once you've built your work plan, then you would start to build it. To begin, you start by adding a task. So I'm just going to click this button that says Add Task, click Open this task, and then this is going to be my first task. So I'd write out the first task, and then I save it. Then I go to the second task. Add Task, click this Open, and then this is Task 2, and then I save it. So you want to think step by step by step. When that action stops, then end that task, click another task, and go to the next action. So the reason that you're doing this way is because it's easier for someone to learn if they go step by step by step. If I was just to write this all out in one big long paragraph, it's much harder for someone to follow it. Even things that are a little subjective or they have if-thens in them and it's not clear steps, you can still do this. Attempt to do it. Just try to architect the steps in your mind. First step, second step, third step. If you have more details about one task or step, you can do bullet points like this. So this could be, more details of this first task or step. I can even do bullets of bullets by hitting this little indent. So now this could be even more details about what was said above here. So take things that feel like a story to you and build them into steps. And that helps you to, first of all, see the steps, because oftentimes when we do work over and over again, we don't realize that we're going step by step because we've just done it for so long that way. And if you say to a person, write that out step by step, they might even say to you, I don't even know how to do that because I do it differently every time, or I'm the only one who knows, or it took me 10 years to learn this, so I can't tell you. So all that feels really real to that person, but if you push them a little bit and try to begin to construct it into steps, you're going to get something down. And even having 20% of how it's done is better than having nothing. And something amazing happens when you push yourself through those yeah buts and start to build it out. You do start to see how it is more consistent. And then that percentage flips. And in the end, about 80% of it you can document. And then maybe it's 20% that can't be. And then that is really amazing, because now you've built something really solid that will stand the test of time and people will be able to learn from. This toolbar you're seeing here in the WORKPLAN is very similar to most word processing you've probably seen. These two tools are for cutting and pasting from Word. So when you hit this text or paste text, it'll give you an option to paste in, and I didn't highlight anything, that's why it gave me that error. It'll give you the option to paste in something in flat text. So what that means is if you're cutting and pasting from a Word document, sometimes the Word document could be in a different font. It could be, in a different size font. Things could be bolded on this Word document. When you paste it into TouchStone, you can just go right-click, paste as text. That's what I do. That's the easiest way. Or you could use this, and it'll paste in as flat text. The reason you want to paste in as with flat text is because you don't want your work plans to look and feel different. Like I wouldn't want somebody cutting and pasting in 14 font Arial or Times New Roman when somebody else is cutting and pasting that in. It's a whole different font and font size. So default to the TouchStone font and font size. So this is Arial. It's 10-point Arial. When you print things, which I'll show you how to do, it exports it in 12-point, which is what we're mostly used to. But 10-point Arial is a good size for on the internet. So that's what these two tools are about. You can do bolding, underline, so all these look familiar. You can change the color of the background. You just saw me do bolding. You can also do numbers. You can see that the tasks are numbered 1, 2, 3. So if you do, it's going to be numbers of numbers of numbers. So usually I would just do bullet points and not numbers. This is the indent and outdent, increase or decrease. This tool is special to TouchStone, and it's the hyperlink tool. So what this hyperlink tool does is it allows you to insert links between one thing and another inside of TouchStone, but also outside of TouchStone. So anything that lives on the internet, you can hyperlink tool. So I would just highlight the link word, and then I hit the hyperlink tool, and then the hyperlink tool is going to pop open. If I hit this drop down, I'm going to see all the different link types. So I can do an external link, which is to another website or web page or web tool for that matter. So with this external link, if I'm logged into another web tool, so I'm past the username and password screen, TouchStone will take me right to that page. So that's useful because you can refer to things inside of other tools. And then all these other link types are things that are inside of TouchStone. So this allows you to link from this work plan to another process. So these are all my processes in alphabetical order, and I just choose the one I want to link to and hit insert. I could link from this task to another tool, so to another work plan inside of another process, to a checklist, to a script. So this allows me to point to specific things in TouchStone and say things like fill out this checklist, or you can show where processes or work plans begin and end. So when this one ends, you can point to the process that goes next by creating a hyperlink. So to make the link, I just, again, choose the type that I want to link to, choose that tool or process that I want to link to, and then I just hit insert, and then you see this highlights, and this becomes the link word. When I save it, then this is the link. So these links show relationships between processes, between tools within processes. They also help to eliminate against redundancy inside of TouchStone. So if somebody needs information from this task that's inside of another process, rather than repeating those steps, I would just link to that other process. And I'm going to show you some examples when we talk about tips and techniques for work plans. But remember that if you can make these links rather than repeating that same content that lives inside of another process. There is also an image uploader, which is this tool right here. So you can take images, pictures on your phone, you can do screenshot images. Every operating system has tools for doing screenshots, but I like this one that I'm showing you right here. It's called usingg. This is the details of usingg. It's made by Smith Tech. It's a free tool that you can download for free. I use this almost every day. It's a really great capture tool. But you can do exactly what I'm going to do here pretty easily and with your snipping tool or whatever you, also the Mac operating system has one. But this is usingg, and you can use it just to make little screenshots like that. So this is the screenshot, and when I hit capture, then you're going to see the image right here. In usingg, you can do these little fancy arrows, which are cool. I can point to things. I can do text boxes. So then I can type in text right here, and then you can make this bigger or smaller. You can highlight using, like that. Do like a yellow highlight. And then you can also change the color of things. Like I can make that red. So it's got a lot of little fancy tools in it, way better than the Windows operating system snipping tool, way better than that. Another thing that you can do with usingg is you can also do screen capture videos, which is kind of cool. So I'll show you that here in a second. But once the image is here, you just save it as something. I usually save these as the word pick, but you can do any default save that you want. And then you hit save. And then I usually just drop these on my desktop. What happens is if you save it as the same thing every time, it's going to override that. It's going to override that last picture, so you don't have 10, 20 pictures on your desktop, because once they're in TouchStone, you don't really need them anymore. So then you just hit the image uploader, you go choose file, you find where you put it. If you know what you saved it as, you can just type in the word down there, and it's going to pop up. So I saved it as pick, so it always goes right to that. And then I just hit open, and then it says it's uploaded, and then you just hit insert, and then you see the image. Once the image is in the task, you can also make it smaller or bigger. So I'm just holding my mouse down and dragging this in and out. And then once you save it, it kind of looks like that. So take screenshots like this whenever you can. It's really great for documentation because someone can see what it's supposed to look like, which is great, because if they can see it, then you don't have to do so much writing in detail, because it would take me a paragraph to explain what's in this picture here. If it's a picture, someone interprets it really fast and can see it. So do little screen snippets of anything and everything you can to kind of demonstrate how it's supposed to look. Right underneath the tasks, there's a second section of the work plan called expectations, which is right down here. The expectations work the same way as the task button. If I want to add an expectation, I just click add expectation, and then it opens just like the task field did. An expectation is anything more that you want to say about this work plan that isn't a part of the steps. It isn't a part of the tasks. So it could be timing of something. So when something's done, when it's due by. So according to this work plan, when does it start? When should it be finished? Within 24 hours, within 1 hour. It's also subjective things. So a quality of some kind, something that I want to say about it, which is important, but it's more subjective. So think to yourself after you've built the work plan, think to yourself, is there anything extra that you can say about this that's important? Context is also good, so why something is one way or another. Anything extra. Some people call this going the extra mile, the expectations here, doing it just that little bit better. So what does someone do to make it just that little bit better? And then you can put that into the expectations. Everything in the work plans and the expectations is all click to edit too. So you saw me just click this and this opens. I have to hit cancel or save or delete before I can move away from something that's open. So if I tried to just go here and click, I'm going to get this error warning just telling me you've got to save this or delete it before you can move away from it. This is also click to edit. If I wanted to change the name of the work plan, just click it. Most everything in TouchStone is click to edit, unless it's a fixed field. So like this work plan field, I can't change the name. This is work plans. You can't change the name of that. But anything else, you just click and it'll open for you to edit. The tasks are all drag and drop and the expectations. So if I want to move these around, I just move them up and move them down. The tools themselves are also drag and drop. So I could take this and move it up or move this down. Expectations, same thing. I can move them up and down. So let's talk about this toolbar row right here. This first icon, if I click it, it will take a work plan and turn it into a checklist. So if I click this and then I say OK, this work plan has now been made into a checklist. And if you look to the left here, you'll see under the work plan title where there was nothing before, now I see this new checklist. And now you can see also that it took the tasks and the expectations and put them next to these check boxes right here, here, and here. So what that toolbar item does is it takes the literal work plan and it builds it into a checklist. That tool is nice because sometimes if you want a quality control checklist, really all it is the work plan. And you just want someone to verify that they did the tasks. So that's this toolbar item here. This toolbar item allows you to move a process tool. So these are process tools, all these here inside this process. So if I built a work plan inside of a process and then I decided later, oh no, I don't really want it in that process, I want it in another one, then this is the tool to use. So you click this and you hit the drop down. Now I'm looking for the process that I want to move this work plan into. So I choose, these are all my sub-functions from the 4 functions list. So I choose the sub-function that the process is in that I want to move this into. Now I'm seeing a list of all the processes. And then I choose the process, again, that I want to move this into, and then I just hit save. And then this work plan will be taken out of this process and moved into this new one that I've selected. So use this when you want to combine 2 processes together. So if you made one that was too narrow, say, and you, based on what I said, you want to combine like things, so you want to move all the tools from one into another, use this. Another way this is used quite frequently is with library processes. So if you download a library process from our library and you like some of the tools inside of it, but not all of them, you can take the ones you like out and move them into your own process, and then you just delete what's left. This toolbar item right here is the export arrow. So when I click this, I'm going to see all the export options. Everything in TouchStone you can print directly to your printer. You can export it to Word. You can export it to a PDF, or you can email it. So everything in TouchStone exports this way. You can do it in a writable format like Word. PDF is the most polished version, I would say, of the export features. So it kind of looks the best. Word is something you'd want to use when you want to set your own page breaks, and if you want to change the headings or the titles of anything. And Word makes it more, makes you be able to customize a little bit more. So I think it's important for everyone to know that things in TouchStone export quite easily. Having said that, think twice before you export things. Once you export them, now you have another copy. And that is one of the downfalls of not having a system like TouchStone. TouchStone's in the cloud. Everything in it is supposed to be the most current version of everything that you have. So if you think of that as a goal, everything in TouchStone should be the most current version. When anyone says to you, where is that, where's the most current version of this document, this form, the contract, this, that, answer should always be it's in TouchStone. If it's not in TouchStone, then what's happening to you is you're doing things in Word and you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'll put it into TouchStone someday. Or you're exporting things from TouchStone and you're changing it, and then you're not updating it in TouchStone. Because once you export something to Word, you can't then take that changed Word document and have that magically appear back in TouchStone. It just doesn't work that way. So it's better to make the updates in TouchStone and then export it to Word if you need to. But I think that I see this quite often. I was actually in a support call with an employee in a company, and what she was doing was she was exporting things from TouchStone and then updating them in Word, and then taking those updates and putting them back into TouchStone. But then sometimes she wasn't putting them back in TouchStone. So now it's like she's got this great system to do all the updates in, but now she's also got these Word documents all over and save as, and 10 documents with the same title with numbers that she saved it 10 times, and it's just a mess. We call it SOP chaos. The reason she was doing it that way is she didn't want to make it was hard for her to make the leap to learn how to use the WORKPLAN tool. And I think people are afraid of technology sometimes. It's hard to learn things, but you really, I mean, you should attest to the fact that this is very easy to use, very simple. In some ways, the Word documents could even be more complicated because they don't give you the structure. You have to build your own structure. So look out for that. Look out for exporting things for no reason. If you want someone to see something in TouchStone, like if I was building this and I wanted my manager to see this work plan, what I would do is go up here to this URL and I would just copy it, and then I'd go and email this to my manager. I'd say, hey, go to TouchStone and look at this work plan I just did. All that person does is they have to be logged in, and then they click this link and then they go right to it. So that's way more efficient and better than emailing it. It's way better to do it this way, where you copy the URL. To the right of this export arrow is this button, which is the archive feature. So what this does is it allows you to keep versions of your documentation. So if I wanted somebody to update this work plan, and I wanted to be able to know what they changed or not lose the original content of it, I just click this archive and say, okay, now a copy of this is in the archive. Now I can go and edit and change this all I want. And if my manager or I want to remember what it used to look like, I can go here to View Archive, and I hit the drop down and go to WORKPLANS, because that's what I just archived. And then I see it right here with the date and time. The date shows you the version. So some people want to get into this fancy system of creating Roman numeral versioning numbers that go on and on forever. I saw the most elaborate one the other day where it was just like, it was like 10 characters long. It's just ridiculous. It was so hard to track. It's as simple as this. The date tells you the version. This version is February 7th. This is the version. If I archive another one of these 2 weeks later, well, this is the first version and that's the second version. It's really as simple as that. You don't need to get into this fancy versioning. So if I want to just look at this, I can just click here and see it. If I want to restore it, then I click this restore button, and now you can see it's back over here. So archive, use it if you're in a compliance-driven industry and you have to show that you've updated things. If you have any HR requirements where you have to show you have updated things, there's some businesses that I know of that are users of TouchStone, and they use it for a lot of reasons, but one of the primary reasons is they have to show that they've updated things. It saves you when you get into legal trouble sometimes as well, because you can show this is our safety policy or this is our termination policy, and we update it every year. So use it for that, or use it just to track changes. To the right of this archive is a delete. So this allows you to delete your process tools. If I hit this X and then I say OK, then that tool, that work plan has just been deleted. And you look to the left, you see I've only got, these 3 left. So you just choose the tool you want to delete, you hit this X, you have 1 chance to change your mind, you say OK, and then that's gone. Only administrators can delete. So if you have employees logging into TouchStone, they don't have the option to delete, only administrators. In addition, if you go to View Deleted here, you can restore anything that you've deleted, any tool from the process. So don't be afraid of deleting. So let's talk about what makes a good work plan. So I'm going to go here to this work plan. So work plans, again, are step-by-step, task-driven. The more information, the better. The more details, the better, because that's what you use for training. Your work plan should be built in clear steps. You'll notice this one, this first task, is written like a paragraph. It's sentences. If people have that type of writing style where they think in pictures and they are very flowy with their language, lots of verbs and adjectives, sentence after sentence, lots of flowery language, it doesn't bode well for process documentation. It might be beautiful for creative writing, but it's not great for process documentation. So that doesn't mean that a person who writes like that can't write processes. They can. They just have to think about it in a different way. They have to think step by step. So you can take anything that you see like this, and if you see something that is sentence after sentence after sentence, then this is a sign that this should be broken up a little bit. I have to read this, and it's a whole different level of understanding if I'm reading something that's written like a story. It's harder to learn that. So with a task like this, you just select it and break it apart. So this is pretty straightforward. Gather the following information. Then I would just do a colon here, and then I would go enter, and then I'd build some bullets. Entered too far. So after every comma, you can just hit enter. So this breaks apart this task so it looks a little different and better. Also look for run-on tasks. So gather the following information. Here's this list. Remember, you can also do like bullets of bullets. So when you see it and other details, I can do this. So that even breaks that bullet up even more. If you get to a sentence in that task where it looks like that is a whole nother step, so look for that, because when people are writing in narrative format, they can't see where something stops and something else begins. So this is gather everything necessary to help you address the situation. Next, locate the customer invoice. Well, that looks like a whole nother step. So cut it out. Save this one. Add this to the bottom. So this is me just correcting somebody who's written something in this way. Save it, take this, and drag it to make it the second task. So you can see this looks a little different, right? Your eye can easily track this. Gather the following information, these steps, this. It's not written out. It's more built in steps or tasks. So look for things like this. Also look for consistency or require consistency in writing style. So some people, when they're writing things, they like to bold, do all caps like this. Or they like to bold things like this to make their point. Or they like to, if they think in form needs to be emphasized, and they make it red like this. So have your people default to just normal writing convention. So don't capitalize a letter, a word, all caps. Don't emphasize with bolding. Don't put colors. Don't do little emojis. Just write in plain text and font and style. And the reason this should happen this way is because you want your documentation to look the same. if I wrote this and I really like to bold letters to emphasize or make them red, someone else who's writing something won't do it that way. And so everything that I've written is going to look like this, and everything they wrote won't. So if you're going to bold things or emphasize words with colors, then have everybody do that, which is a little hard, or have nobody do it. You can do if-thens in WorkPlans. So like in number 5 here, or even starting in number 4, if this is a warranty issue, follow this policy. If this is not a warranty issue, then do this. So that is an if-then statement. So if you're going about documenting your tasks and you're thinking, well, it's different this way, and then it's different that way, and then if they do this, it's completely different, don't let that stop you. This is one of those situations where everything is flowing together in your mind, and you can't, and you would say to someone, I can't tell them how to do this because they just need to know. That's usually the product of an if-then situation. If this, then that. So you do that in your language, just like you would a flow chart. Use the words, if this, if that, then this. Remember to do hyperlinks. So this is a hyperlink right here to the script that's over here. Think about this idea of not being redundant. So this is a task that says enter flags and actions into the CRM. So this enter flags and actions are steps someone has to take when they're updating a contact record in their CRM. So rather than repeating the task of how to enter the flags and actions right here in this task, I'm just making hyperlinks to a whole other process, which is how to use the CRM. So here's the CRM how-tos process, and these are all typical actions within the CRM. This could be even a link to a tutorial inside of the CRM where they've built how to enter flags, the company who made the CRM, or you list it here. So this is an example of referring to another process rather than writing out the steps of that particular task. The reason you want to do that is you don't want redundancy. If I'm going to write the steps for how to enter flags here, yet it's also in 4 other processes, and it's also in the CRM how-tos process, well, what happens when I want to update how to enter the flags? Well, it's a mess because those tasks are in all different work plans, and I may not even remember which ones they're in. Here are some examples of expectations. Every customer complaint will be heard with professionalism and intent. Should be resolved within 24 hours. Okay, so let's talk about checklists here for a second before I run out of time. I spend a lot of time on the work plans because it's the most important tool. It's the tool that's used the most. And I think your ability to build a good work plan is really important. We will review work plans for you. So if you have employees building work plans, if you built one yourself and you just want someone to look at it, go up here to the Resource Center and go to the help desk and send us a request to review your work plan. And someone will contact you and we'll give you some feedback on it. Typically speaking, we're going to say things like break it into steps, which is this situation. We're going to say things like this doesn't have enough detail. So number 3 here, I'm just going to pull this to the top so you can see it. Determine whether this is a warranty issue. Well, how? How does the person determine if it's a warranty issue? So if you look at your task and you start thinking, is this enough information? Think about the minimum competency level of the person doing this. So if I'm hiring someone to handle customer complaints, and before I hired them, I said they have to have a high school diploma, they have to have worked with a customer in a customer service position for 2 years, they have to know Microsoft Word products, they have to know how to use the internet. So these are all my required competencies. And then when I hire that person, I'm testing them and saying, yeah, show me you know how to use the internet. Let's have a conversation. Let me hear you talk about it. So I'm in my interviewing process, I'm testing them. Well, now I've hired them based on those core competencies. So inside of this work plan, I don't need to explain to them how to use the internet. I don't need to explain to them how to use a Word document because they should know that. So think about the minimum competency level of the position and then document everything they need from that point forward. Everything they need to know about how to do this work should be in this work plan, other than the things they should already know because you tested them on that before you hired them. So think about your different tasks. Probably 90% of the time, I would say to people when I look at a work plan, this doesn't have enough detail. You need more detail here, you need more detail here, which is fine. You can go back and add the detail. I hardly ever say this is too much detail, unless they're, explaining how to open a Word document. Well, obviously that's too much. Okay, so checklist. To build a checklist, same idea as the work plans. I just click the title right here, and then I put in the name of the checklist, which is usually always going to be different than the name of the title. It doesn't, of the title of the process. It doesn't have to be, but usually it is. And then I just hit create checklist. So I'm naming the checklist, I create it. In the objective field here in the checklist, I really like to see context. Why is this checklist important? It's the why of it. And the reason why that's good to put in the objective of the checklist is when someone's learning this, you want them to know how it's going to be used. So the number one issue with checklists is employees don't fill them out. I build it, they don't fill them out. Tell them to fill it out, they don't fill it out. They're insubordinate, they just don't care. All those issues come up with checklists. If you start to build the context for it and explain to your employees why it's important, and then the manager makes it important, then they're going to use it, without a doubt. So say how it's used. You use it for compliance. You use it so that the manager can review how many complaints have happened in a week, so we can decide how things need to be better. Put all that information into the objective so the employee gets it. So here, same idea as add tasks. I click add checklist item. The title right here, this is going to be what's next to the box. So this is bolded, and it's next to the box in the checklist. Underneath the title is a description. So this is for more detail. And then when I save this, this is what it looks like. So this in the title field goes right next to the checkbox, and then the more detail appears underneath. Checklist should be clear, step, step, step. It shouldn't have a whole lot of detail. All the detail for how to do this checklist item should be in the work plan. If you have checklists that are 4 pages long and each box has a paragraph of information underneath it, it's just too much in a checklist. The checklist is not to explain to me how to do this. It's a verification that it's been done. So the easier it is just to go tick, 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 check these boxes off, the more usable it's going to be for the employee. So one thing you can think about is if you take a work plan like this one and you turn it into a checklist, just hit OK. Now what I would generally do is go and just like pare this down a little bit. So I'd probably get rid of all of this and go and get rid of extra information that's not necessary. So any of the how-tos of it all, until it's really just one sentence next to the checklist boxes. I would like it if we got rid of this description altogether, but people clamored for it, so that's why we have it. So just remember with your checklist, make it clear and concise. It's not explaining how to do it, it's just verification that it's been done. Now these checklists, just like everything else in TouchStone, can be exported right here, but one of the more common places to use checklists is on the dashboard. So let's go to the dashboard here. So this is a customer service position. If I was the customer service rep or service person, this is what it would look like when I logged into TouchStone. I would see the dashboard. I don't really need to go over here to the 4 functions or even to the org chart if I don't want to. I would just go right here to my position. And now here's all my processes. Pretty straightforward. They're like put into categories. So that's just creating groups here built into categories. I've been marked as trained in all these processes. That's why those little green check marks are here. So I know I'm trained. If I have daily checklists or weekly checklists, I can even have a group called checklists, and here they are. So when somebody goes to the control panel, they can go to a checklist like this one, their daily to-do. They click it, and now here's a copy of the checklist. This, by the way, is a checklist of processes, which is kind of a more higher level thing you can do in TouchStone. So this is a process, warm lead selling. This is sales follow-up, contracts and proposals. If I was to click on these links, it would take me to the process on how to do contracts and proposals or how to do sales follow-up. But in this example, I'm just ticking off that I did these things. So this is like a daily checklist that someone would do. And then when I save it, it's date and time stamping it and saving a copy of this back to TouchStone. At this point, there's also a print button, which will create a PDF of this that I could print or download somewhere else if I wanted to. So this checklist, this is what I mean by it can be completed in TouchStone. I'll show you another quick example. Let's go back again. So this is like a daily cleaning checklist that I would do every day. Here's some work plans in this one. The work plans explain the detail of how I do the cleaning. To do the cleaning checklist, I just click cleaning, and then I would save it and fill it out and save it back to TouchStone. So employees are here on the dashboard if you choose to use it this way, and they're completing all of their checklists. You as the manager can then go over here to reports and run a report of that particular employee's checklist or of all the employees. I'm just going to choose the date range today, which is, let's choose yesterday and then to today. So the manager would go and put in a date range. You can look for specific employees, or you can just look, and there's not any checklist there today, but anyway, you get the idea. You can choose a user, or you can, oh, I know, I'm not logged in as a manager, so that's why I'm not seeing anything here. So if you are a manager, you're going to see this section called Management Review appear down here, and then that gives you the ability to go run reports of what your employees have been doing. So there's a benefit to managers for having the checklist filled out in TouchStone. And employees can do this on their phone, any mobile device. The benefit is that at the end of the day, or the week, or the month, I can go and run a report and see that they're all there. So this is another point about the usability and the using of checklists. The employees will stop using them if they don't clearly understand that the manager is using them. The manager is looking, the manager is reviewing them, the manager notices when they're not there. So the minute the employee gets the sense that these are just going in the trash, why would they use them? And that's generally the reason. Number one, they don't understand why they have to fill it out. Or number two, they don't think anyone's looking anyway, so why keep doing it? So the way to combat that as a manager is, first of all, don't over checklist people. Just do checklists for things that are essential, that you really have a good purpose for, and then look at them every week. Run a report at the end of the week, at the end of the day. All you have to do is glance through that they've actually been filled out. It's quite easy. And then have comment to the employee if they're there or not. If you see one missing, go right back to that person. Where's your checklist? So managers look at checklists because there could be a problem with the customer complaint, or they want to make sure that the daily to-do lists are being done. And you need them to be there when you need them to be there. So the way to make that happen is to check daily, weekly, however often you need to make sure that they're there. And it only takes a few weeks of this for you to say, where's the checklist for Monday? Where's it for Tuesday? I just looked, it's not there. If you do that 1-2 times, the employees are going to know you're serious about it. They're going to know that you're looking, and they're going to fill them out. And then they're going to be there when you need them. They're going to be there when there is a problem and you need to verify that something's actually been done. So next week, we are going to talk about the rest of the process tools. And I'm also going to show you some more tips and techniques for the dashboard, how to use processes on the dashboard. But we're going to mostly focus just on the rest of the tools here. I'm going to talk about the same things I did today, equal time on each process tool going forward. So how to build them, what they're used for, how to build a good one, what are some of the tips for building something that's good, and what are some of the things to look for to improve them. So next week it'll be the rest of the process tools. Next week I'm also going to save time to talk about a few key processes from the library. So I ran out of time today, but the three I'm going to talk about next week, in case you want to download these and start to think about them, are these three: customer complaints, customer satisfaction, and reputation monitoring. I'm throwing this one in because reputation monitoring is verifying your online presence, making sure you're responding to things if necessary. This is the same thing as this. Now that we have the internet, which has been around for years, but social media, it's very easy for customers to complain about you online or to ask questions. And if you're not monitoring it, you're not looking at it, it's the exact same thing as having a customer call and say, I'm unhappy about this, and you just hanging up on them. It's the same thing. It's even worse because that customer could go and tell as many people as they want, but when it's online, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people could potentially see it. So this is really important. And customer satisfaction, this is the upside of customer complaints. So if you're checking to see if your customers are happy after work that you do for them, either they're going to complain, which hopefully they don't, or they're going to be happy. And there's a whole lot to be gained from learning who's happy and why. So those three processes I'll talk in more detail about next week. Some of you have asked questions. I do see those. I'm going to email you directly. I just ran out of time, but don't be concerned. I'll definitely get back to you today. Thanks for coming, everybody. Talk to you next week.